Hello everyone. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional graphic designer and illustrator. And Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. And this Sunday, of course, we're picking back up with the beloved Four of Wands from this project. But I have made quite a bit of leeway on it just over this week. So before we get into it, we're going to get into if you like this kind of content, you think you may like it, you would like to support me in any way, shape, or form. The easiest way to do that is to hit the like button. That helps me out so much. It lets YouTube know that you like it, and it also helps me to grow to that 1,000 subscribers. So I have a goal of growing to 1,000. So liking the video helps me out a whole lot, helps push out the video to other people who may also like it. Hey, TN lady, I'm happy to see you in the chat. Other ways that you guys can support me, of course, by hitting the subscribe button. That helps. But if there is a project that you have in mind that you think I would be a great fit for, there is going to be a link to a questionnaire down in the description below. I also have merchandise and things like that for you to own a piece of the art that I create, specifically the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, because most of the prints that I have in the shop are centered around that. Now, that is not all that I have, but that is a good chunk of the art that is available for now. But I do take custom commissions as well as commercial commissions as well. So all of that information is going to be down in the description. So the Four of Wands, I'm really happy with this. So I worked on it. I think we were here Wednesday for Bring Your Own Project Live, where I made some pretty great progress on both the male characters' top, his jacket and vest, as well as the top of the canopy. I had to cut that stream, I'm gonna say short, but it was still like 2 hours. It was still like 2 hours long, but I had cut it short because what I'm finding with these illustrations that have like a lot of details and a lot of information in them is that they tend to be huge files, which means that the autosave system takes forever and 3 days to do. So it'll go through its process while we're here today, so you guys will have an opportunity to kind of see that in action. But it was taking a really long time to autosave, and in doing that, things were starting to freeze and glitch and all kinds of stuff was happening. So at about the 2 hour mark, I decided to cut the stream short, I guess, in a way, even though again it was 2 hours long. We was there for a long time. The thing about that is that I had gotten into a really good flow with the top of this image, and I'll zoom in here so you guys can see both the sketch and sort of the details. Now this portion of the picture I actually traced over the reference for this because there was too many details for me to try and capture, but I did want it to look as close as possible to the reference, so I gave myself at least that sort of jump start or head start in the process of creating this portion of the illustration. And so I've just been kind of filling in kind of like paint by numbers in a way, but there are no numbers, so I'm having to like match up the area to the reference, which is a lot of fun. It can be very soothing. The only drawback again to that is because I can kind of see where things are. For instance, there is a nice big pink flower in this area, but just sort of looking at the trace of it or the sketch of it, it doesn't really look like it. So a lot of times I am filling in these spaces and they only look like lines and squiggles until I zoom out, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it's coming together. so that helps out a lot. That was definitely something that helps me save time in terms of sketching this particular illustration. And so it's been very much an adventure trying to fill in the gaps and put together the puzzle pieces, or the paint by numbers, if you will, in this aspect of the illustration. Now you will see people who will say that tracing is not great. I don't know, it just kind of depends. It depends on your own personal view. It is something that for instance, for something like this, I don't have any problems or qualms or shame about it. I will trace in a heartbeat and then fill it in, because just because you could trace something doesn't mean that you have the know-how to know how to actually complete it. So that is what I did for the top portion of that. And so this Wednesday we'll be back on that. Hopefully we'll make some larger strides in it. But Wednesday I also worked again on the vest for our male character, so I'll turn off the sketch here just for you guys to be able to see what's going on there. I like the way it's coming together. It looks very nice, very polished. It looks, you know, done right in terms of his jacket and his vest, and that's exactly what we want to go for. Right, we don't necessarily want to start looking for perfection, but as I began to lay layers of details and things like that into the illustration, then of course we want to make sure that it is where I would, you know, where I want to see it completed. So that's where we are. So we're just going to pick back up here. Now again, I am using my reference with the 3D models where we have the lighting, which is helping me out a whole lot. So anytime I set up the these 3D models as references for poses and things like that, I do take the time, not always, but here lately I have definitely taken the time to pay attention to where I position the light so that it is consistent. Now in this case, when I was drawing from the reference here, this reference for the most part, I knew that everything behind the figures was going to be in shadow. However, there's a clear light source because the bushes are not in shadow. We can see the shadows from the bushes down at the bottom, so that lets me know that there is light coming from the top. And of course, there we created the illusion of this red portion being a part of the same scene, which indicates that there's some light. So when it came time for me to set up the lighting for my 3D models, I wanted to make sure that everything was pretty consistent so I didn't have to figure that stuff out as I went along. So today again, we're just going to pick back up with our male character. I'm really happy with the way that his jacket and vest is turning out. When I was using my reference, I used this particular one just to kind of have an idea of where light and shadow hit, because it has, again, very similar lighting. It just had to change the color, but I was really paying attention to how the folds in the fabric sort of showed up in the actual image, so that I can kind of replicate that as close as possible into my illustration. So today we're actually going to go to the previous reference, because this is one that I used for his legs. Now again, I did not draw this exactly because his legs are pointing more to the right, where our reference's legs are pointing more straight forward, but I did use the information in that to see where the creases fell into his legs. So I'll come back to this from time to time, this particular image, as we move forward. But for right now, I am going to go to my original reference, and then what we'll do is kind of fill things in as we go. Now before I do, because I know again that this is a huge file, I'm going to see if I can condense some things so I have some information on that's labeled layer 3. If I can kind of join that with another layer, that'll kind of help me out a whole lot. So I can't quite tell what this is, so what I'm going to do is select it. Excuse me. So that looks like it goes to the skin. So we're going to condense that down to the skin, right? So this kind of helps out a lot. So in the video that I'm working on, I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. If you are looking to get into digital illustration specifically, so you want to draw on a computer or you want to draw on a tablet, you want to make sure that your computer or tablet has enough RAM to be able to support these huge files, right? So RAM is just the part of your computer that again allows you to run different things and different programs without there being hiccups or anything like that. That allows me to have a gajillion layers, right? The issue though is that because of the RAM that is currently set up on my computer, I have to condense things and sort of make things smaller and flatter in order for me to have a successful sort of illustration, especially when we get into these very elaborate, very detailed illustrations. So anywhere I have something turned off that I don't think I'm going to need, such as this layer here, I don't even know what this is. We can turn it on to see if it's something we think we might need. I don't know. I might actually keep that. But we'll go through and kind of condense some of this stuff down, and then we will just delete what we don't need again and move forward. And that'll kind of help the computer sort of compute as I lay down colors and things like that. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a great week this week. I have had a great week. I'm really glad about this. This year has been a very interesting and trying year, especially as just a creative entrepreneur. And so this year, sort of this week, I should say, I had some great victories. I was able to take a class that I really enjoyed, which was in person, which I think was really, really nice to experience. Got a certificate in the whole thing, and I ain't gonna spoil it, tell you what class it was, but I'm really, really excited to have participated in it, and it felt really good to be around people who are after the sort of the same thing or trying to explore the same pivot, I guess. You know, and so that was a lot of fun to be able to do that. So anytime you guys can get out amongst people who share common interests, it does make a huge difference. Now, when I was working with the guild as the Southern Regional Rep, that was probably one of the biggest things that I kind of took away from that time that I was the Southern Regional Rep, is that I was able to sort of be in these, and they were long meetings. They were long, they were really long, a lot of times very boring meetings. things, but just sort of being in the space of people who are not only creatives in that realm, but also entrepreneurs or business owners or freelancers or people who are, some of them worked, regular jobs, but just sort of being around other creative people that share a similar interest and a similar skill set was a lot. It meant a lot, right? It really was a nice experience, and it was something that I enjoyed while I was able to enjoy it. And in that, I was able to sort of go to, I think, a conference. That's 2023. Y'all gonna keep hearing me mention 2023. I had a great year that year, but I was able to kind of go to a conference and meet people through the guild as a way to sort of network as well. And I was working on a project for them. And so just being able to be in a space where you have other people again who are in similar fields or at least express similar interests is always going to be a win. So anytime you can do that, you can get out in those spaces. I highly encourage it. Even if you are sort of just curious about something, right? So sometimes we're not really sure if what we're going for is what we'll like. Sometimes being in the space around people who are doing the thing that you're thinking about doing, even if it's just a thing that you're sort of tossing around in your mind, sometimes they can make all the difference as well, because you kind of get an idea to see how people in that specific space and industry communicate, talk about what kind of interests they are, what kind of people they tend to be, what kind of stressors they have, what kind of victories they have, all of those things. It can be very, very helpful, very inspiring, right? And just an all around good time. So I had an opportunity again to do that this week. And so I'm really, really happy about that. Excited about it. Excited to see what comes of it. And so I hope you guys are having an equally great time, right? Hope you guys are having a nice time with your lives. And if not, I hope that things get better for you soon. I certainly do hope that. So yeah, we've been working on the Cosmic Gateways a little bit this week. I did a couple of live streams a while ago where I rewatched some of my old art videos that I hadn't seen in years, right? I didn't show nearly all. I think I had to cut it. I made a list of ones that I wanted to go back and revisit, but that didn't show half of the stuff that I have on this channel. And so just sort of as I am, pivoting and going through things and, exploring different industries and things like that, I have been going back to drawing traditionally, which is something that I only really do when I'm sketching or something like that, but I haven't really done any paintings. I think the last acrylic painting I did was a commission that I received last December, I think, right? And it's been even longer since I've done like ink portraits, which is the three mediums that I would primarily work in would be acrylics, India ink. I would do a lot of India ink and watercolor portraits. And then I would also do digital, of course. Now I've leaned very heavily in recent years to digital because it's just less mess. It's less for me to have to clean up. But I will say, and I would probably have argued this incorrect a while ago, but I will say that once I did the painting last November, I missed it, right? I didn't do any more since then. I did miss it. I was definitely rusty in it because I hadn't worked in that medium in a long time. At least I think the painting I did before that had to been a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years prior to that. So it had been a really, really long time since I worked with acrylics. So much so that all of the paints that I had to like mix up and shake up and make sure that they were working and functioning the way that they were supposed to. But I hadn't done it in so long, right? And so I really, really enjoyed it. And recently I have been doing some marker and India ink drawings, not necessarily in the same vein as my portraits that I've been doing, but just sort of, similar, just traditional medium on watercolor paper and things like that. And I've been enjoying it, right? So I started watching back some of my old art videos and I started to get that itch. I'm like, oh man. The thing of it is though, I had a niece who was into art. So I knew that I was moving toward digital artwork because it was just, again, easier for me to clean up. I could just sit at my desk and work. Don't necessarily have to worry about washing brushes and, making a mess and then having to clean up the mess and do all of that. So I had so many like blank canvases. I had given, hey, draw sketchbook. I had given away a lot of blank canvases and sketchbooks and all of that. And so I went back and I was like, dang, I did give all that away, you know what I mean? But I do have a few things that I can draw with and own, and finding that was so much fun. So going through all of my closets and my storage and finding like watercolor paper and markers that, thank goodness, some of them I didn't store correctly, so a lot of them dried out, but some of them that I really want, I guess the more expensive ones I stored flat, so they working like new. Right? And I'm talking, it's been years since I bought, I want to say 2016. So it's been almost 10 years since I bought some of the art supplies. So I found a whole bunch of markers. I had some acrylic inks that were still good. I had to shake them up real good, make sure I got them loosened up and everything. Had to unplug the stoppers, of course, because acrylic is basically plastic. So when it dries hard like a plastic. So I had to dig all that out. But I have been enjoying it, and I have just been itching to do a painting. Right? Or I went back yesterday and specifically watched my ink portraits. And so there's a playlist on this channel if you guys are interested in some of the ink portraits that I've done. And I need to update it because I think I was missing one or two once I went back through. I was like, this ain't all of them, but there were a few. But like just going through that whole process and kind of sitting down away from the computer and sort of in a slightly different space and using a very different medium and trying to remember how to use it, right? Or how to be very effective, how to do like the nice washes and all of that. It was such a nice time. So I have been like itching to do that. So if you're interested in seeing me work and do some quick sketches. So what I used to do for comic book conventions is I would price all of my artwork in tiers, right? So I think the cheapest thing I had were like these little $2 buttons I would sell 3 for $5. So I would do a 3-pack of those. And then above that, I would have these last chance prints because I used to print at an 8.5 by 11 size. So I would sell them for $10 and I marked them down to $5. So we're working our way up the ladder, right? But the most expensive thing that I would sell were these original 6 by 8 acrylic paintings of whatever the character was, right? And so the last one I did was Bruce Lee, and I don't remember what year it was, maybe 2018. So it's been a really long time. So I didn't give away those canvases. So I do have quite a few 6 by 8 small canvases. And then I have this like, I don't know, I forget the name of it. It's not chipboard. It's quite thinner than chipboard, but it's sort of the same color and texture. It's like a card stock, but it looks like chipboard. But anyhow, I got a bunch of those. So I was like, you know what? Maybe one of these days I'll sort of dive into it. I don't know. I wonder what it is called when a creative sort of has all of these thousands of ideas and sort of this pull towards creation or creating something, it's like a compulsion, right? Just kind of feel compulsed to draw and to paint and to sort of explore some of those things that I have not worked with in so long. And the funny thing is, when I did that video, I did an art haul 2016. That was the first time I was ever on camera. So I did an art haul. I had bought like $250 or so, something like that, dollars worth of art supplies. I had bought a lot, right? Some of it I used, some of it I never even touched. Right? So I got a whole, keep it in like a cigar box. I have a whole collection of water soluble oils that I was intending to use. And I'm in the comments like, yeah, I'll show you guys how to do this. And then burnout hit and life hit and all of that. And I never really got around to it. So going through some of those old supplies and like finding it, I was like a kid in a candy store. It was so much fun. I was like, where has all of this been? I guess it's just been in my closet all this time. So I really am, I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I would film it or just kind of share it. Maybe I should film it just to show you guys sort of that part of creativity. I do, again, really, really enjoy creating with digital art because, again, it's just less mess. It's less to have to deal with. I can easily just kind of pull up my computer. The biggest thing I fight with my computer is just the RAM, right? And that's the ability to open and have huge files and all of the things open at one time. That is probably the biggest thing, right? The program that I use is all a perpetual license, so I don't have to pay a subscription or anything like that, right? So it has some advantages. But I gotta be honest with you. I gotta be honest with you. After sort of working on some of those sketches and things like that, and seeing how rusty I was with the water mediums, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should kind of dip into this a little bit more. So it used to be, like I said, a time where I would work in the three acrylics, indie ink slash watercolor, so it'd be like water mediums, and then digital. I would always get asked which was my favorite. I don't have a favorite, or didn't have a favorite at that time, and I still really don't. But I will say that I do miss I do miss it, right? I think that sketch that I showed you guys in Procreate, where I sketched the man's face, that was sort of probably the starting point, because I was like, oh man, I hadn't drawn in a traditional sort of way in a really long time. Now, from time to time, I'll do like just light sketches or doodles and things like that. Typically, if I'm out, I'll carry a sketchbook with me. In terms of like going to conventions and anywhere I'm sitting for a while, I'll do that. But I have not like done a full art piece right since last December, when I did the acrylic portrait that I was commissioned to do. So I might pull some of that stuff back. I don't know, man. There's so many things I want to explore as a creative, and sort of as an artist. I remember earlier today I was on Threads, and somebody, because I'll be 40 next year, right? So somebody was like, folks born in 86, we're gonna be 40, and all of the comments was like, oh no, I can't, don't say that, take that back. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. 40 come around, I got all kinds of stuff I want to do. So I'm trying to ride this thing out. So we'll see. Next year is going to be a fun year, I believe. But yeah, we'll get into some of that, I think. I got so many things I want to do. Right? So many projects I want to create. And one thing I will say is that typically if I don't get around to it like right away, it gets done, right? So the tarot deck is one of those great examples of that, because it was something I had wanted to start years prior to me actually starting, right? The book that I published, on the flip side of that, the first book that I published, I think I had the idea, and then I just wrote it. I just, edited, did all of that, laid it out, published it right away. And so some things happen in those, sort of in that way. Some things take me a while to get around to, but I do eventually get around to it. And then some things take a little bit of, don't take as much time, I should say. So what's going through is autosave process, which okay. I might have to do that every time it does that. I was just going to say it's going through the autosave process, so it's going to be a minute, but excuse me, I guess not. So anyhow, so what I'm doing so far, let me cut back to what I'm actually supposed to be doing today. What I am doing so far is I began to lay out sort of the light into the pants, and I'm sort of following my reference a bit, right? So the light is coming from above him as well, and it's kind of hitting his legs in a similar fashion. We do have a little bit of depth because we have the folds in the fabric and all of that. So I'm just kind of adding it in, but also keeping in mind where I have the light in my reference. So where he has shadow, it may not be as deep of a shadow in our character, just because of where the light is hitting. So we'll see that. And if you guys are just joining me, do me a huge favor, hit that like button. Let's do that. But yeah, so there's so many things that I would like to do and explore. And I think sometimes when we get into that mode, or when I get into that mode, it can be very easy to say, oh my goodness, I have all of these interests. Maybe I should kind of stick to one so I can actually get to a certain place with one. But I don't know. I'm when it comes to having a niche, I am sort of on the fence, right? I can see both sides of niching down and like having this one thing that you do that you're good at, and this is your absolute specialty, and you don't really explore other modes of creativity or other parts of life or other things that you can do. But I also understand sort of trying everything. I will say that I and try as much as you can, right? Because you don't want to necessarily limit yourself, and unless you feel like that's your path, I don't feel like it's necessary for you to limit yourself just to one sort of thing. Right? So if you have something that you want to do and explore, do it, right? But do go as far as you can go with it. You know what I mean? Take your time, be patient with it, and then just sort of do the next side mission. Right? So I'm queen of the side missions. I swear to goodness, there are so many things that I would love to do. So many projects that I have as work in progresses right now. So for that very first book that I published 2021. I have the second edition, which is almost completed. There is a section of it where it used to be a workbook, and I wish I had one. I had one on my bookshelf, but was originally formatted to be sort of like a workbook. It was like 60 pages, really short, really easy to digest and to use. But I would like to transform that workbook into like a full-fledged guided journal, right? So you still have the information from the original, and then you have like, let's work through it, right? Guided journal to finish it off. So I started working on that a while ago, earlier this year. That is something that I would still love to finish and put out and do all of that. I got some stuff I want to do on my website. You know what I mean? So there's always for me something to do, which is why for me also it is important for me to set aside time to do these things, right? So if I don't, it is very easy for someone like me who has like 1,000 creative ideas and projects that I want to explore to easily get kind of distracted and tangled up. And, I see the next shiny thing and I'm ready to move on. So I have to sort of exercise a bit of discipline. And so one of the things that helps me to do that is just to set aside time to do it, right? So I will set aside Sundays, of course, and Wednesdays lately, right, to work on this particular project, because if I don't, I'll get sidetracked. Next thing you know, I'm doing other things, right? So this is one of those projects that for sure, no matter what else I explore, this one has to get done. So that's kind of how you have to, you have to approach things, keep yourself on track. But I wonder if I don't know, I don't want to give myself no diagnosis. I was like, this an attention deficit situation. I have no idea. But there are so many things that I would just really, really love to do. And I will do, right? At a certain point, I'll put all that out. I still got a long life ahead of me, 39. I'm hoping to see another 39 years, right? And in that 39 years, I'll probably be like the Snoop Dogg of art, because he do everything. He do. Who else? Just be doing all kinds of side missions. Just enjoying life, right? And not necessarily holding yourself to anyone else's standards or putting yourself into anyone else's box. I think that is sort of the way to go. Sort of follow the highest excitement, as Bashar would say. The guy who channels Bashar, he says to follow the highest excitement. So we want to do that. As well as, of course, taking care of our responsibilities and all of that. But I feel like life, and maybe this is an oldest daughter thing too, I feel like life is so full of responsibility. There's always going to be someone to take care of, right? There's always going to be something to do. So I think sometimes making time for things that feel good, that you want to do, that you want to explore, is so paramount and so very important, just from a mental health perspective, right? Because we could drive ourselves crazy trying to navigate this big, crazy world that we live in, and sort of all of the challenges that come with adulting and, sort of, just trying to survive, right? There's so much that comes with it. So I think anytime you can kind of sit down and like do something that feels good, right? It doesn't have to be a full-time job. It doesn't even have to be a business or something that you turn into a business, but just find something that you enjoy and lean into that as much as you possibly can, right? And I feel like doing so, even with all of the thousands of interests that I have, right? I feel like doing that every so often sort of does help to balance things out significantly, right? Because again, as someone who is now, I don't know if I'm considered an elder millennial. I don't know where elder starts and stops, but an elder millennial, I guess, right? I feel like we have witnessed so much in the world and have sort of, I don't know, we've been having a very interesting time navigating the world's changes from the first crash, which I honestly didn't feel. 2008 was the first time that they said we experienced it, because I was vigilant enough. I did notice, the only thing I noticed was jobs were drying up. So I was still in school, was still in college, and I noticed that I would see lots and lots of graphic design jobs, and this time it was in the newspaper, right? We still had websites and things like that posted jobs, but for the most part, locally, you would find a lot of the jobs in the newspaper. So I'm starting to notice things are drying up kind of fast, right? I'm trying to find me at the time I was trying to find an internship, and so I was able to land my first job within that. I don't recall feeling it as much as I'm feeling it now in terms of the recession and all of that. I do remember that at my job, which was a locally owned business, the owner went from having things that monitored our computers to not being able to afford that. So I didn't notice in that aspect, but for the most part, like I was able to find a job, thank goodness, within that aside from the one that I was already working when I was working as a bartender and a server. So I didn't feel it as much, right? But I do know that it existed. This one though, this one I can kind of feel, and it's been very, very interesting. And it's been more so interesting to watch the trickle down effect, because where you feel like maybe your industry is suffering, what I'm seeing is that everyone's industry is suffering, especially in creative. But I feel like unless it's sort of one of those essential jobs, maybe in healthcare and in tech and things like that, a lot of people are really feeling the burn, right? So with that, why not explore the stuff that feels good, right? I mean, why not? Otherwise, we're going to be stressing and trying to sort of make ends meet is going to be our primary focus. And sometimes you just need something to buffer all of that out. So let's see how we're doing. I don't think I'm liking yet how this is coming along. But again, anytime I'm doing something like this, where I'm adding details to an image, I'm not necessarily reaching for perfection. I'm just kind of seeing what's what, right? I'm laying in the primary sort of light and shadow. I do really like the creases that I have in his pants. I do like the highlights that I have in his pants. I do not like the folds and wrinkles, which is what I'm trying to emulate from our character here. I don't necessarily like how that's coming along, so I'm gonna tighten that up, right, just a bit, and then I may later come back and add some of that in. I like it on this left side, not so much on the right, so we're going to subdue that a bit and kind of dial that back a little bit, and then we'll add in maybe his zipper and all of that. So that's where we are. So how have you guys' year been? Did I phrase that right? How has your year been so far? We're right here at the end. To me, I feel like it kind of flew by once we got to maybe, I don't know, June, July. It seems like time kind of flew by. It does. It seems like time just came and went. And it was like we were celebrating summer and all of that. And next thing you know, we were in fall. And now we're heading into winter. And for Memphis tends not to be very cold early in the year. Like sort of this late in the year. We might get cold in January, usually get a snowstorm or so. 1 or 2 January, maybe February, but typically November, December, it's not as cold as it's been, but it's been extremely cold here lately. So I don't know, the year's just kind of flown by. I don't know if I've had an opportunity to enjoy the seasons this year. But in terms of like career, things have been very different. I am finding that what is helpful to me is to sort of make a decision into where I would like to pivot. And even that, I'm having to like fight you know how your mind can start to make up scenarios and stuff like that. Fight the urge to sort of doubt myself in that pivot, right? So again, I have to sort of allow myself the space to just explore things and not be so settled in this is the way that you have to go. So Draw Sketchbook says, my year has been good so far. I made more time to work on development. That is so awesome. See, Draw Sketchbook, that is so awesome. And first of all, thank you so much for sharing some of your art with me. That is so wonderful because, again, you have to make time to do that. You have to make time to do the things that you enjoy and want to explore, because there's always, man, I promise there's always going to be something else to do. So that is so awesome. And for you guys who are joining us, please be sure to check out Draw Sketchbook's YouTube page as well if you would like to see her art progress and her development. So that is so awesome, man. It really is. I think this year, let me see. Again, it's had some challenges, right? I think toward the end of last year, again, you guys will hear me say 2023 for the most part was the busiest year that I had up until about September. September, I joined the guild as the Southern Regional Rep, so a lot of my time toward the end was sort of focused in that particular arena. And I know that at the end of the year, I tend to have very slow years, right? So I was expecting things to kind of pick back up business-wise around February, March. It never did, right? So 24... still kind of figuring out what's going on. You know, I have a project here or there, and it just never bounced back. So by the end of 2024, I was like, okay, as someone who does this professionally, it might be time for me to start looking at some employment, right? Just to kind of sustain until things kind of pick back up and I can, you know, go back to freelancing and doing that. And so I did that for the first up till May, maybe May or June, was just like constantly applying for jobs and like, looking for work, not just on the job market, but just like, trying to find clients and things like that. And I think that's when I really began to click about the economy and how people are spending money and sort of the changes in the way that people were hiring graphic designers and illustrators. Now, I hadn't been in the traditional job market since 2011, something like that. Something like that. I started freelance in 2012. So it had been a really, really long time since I had been in it. So I was trying to figure out how to navigate that space and how to sort of set up resumes and do all of that. And I think I was seeing people say, well, yeah, we applied to 200-300 jobs and I ain't heard nothing back. And hear me super confident. I always go into something hella confident. That's something I will say. I'm always like, oh, I don't know what y'all doing wrong, but it ain't gonna be like that for me. And I won't say every time, but a lot of the times I find that I prove myself wrong, right? So in this case, I was super confident. I was like, well, I got the years of experience, I got the portfolio, got the know-how. I know how to interview, I know how to deal with clients, and I know how to balance certain spaces. So getting back into the job market should not be that difficult. And it was. Right, I think I applied I didn't quite get to 100, but we were at like 90 something jobs as a graphic designer that I was more than qualified for, right? Again, having the portfolio. And what I was finding was that applications were sorted through this AI system. So half the time, stuff wouldn't even be reviewed by a human, right? That was one thing I was having to navigate. Then you was finding scam jobs and ghost jobs. And so all of that from January to, I would say May, it may have gone a little bit longer than that. January to May was constantly like, okay, something's got to give, right? So, and it never did in that regard. And so it's like, okay, now I have to sort of reevaluate a career path, because again, the clients that I am used to servicing are also feeling the pinch of the economy, also not being able to afford certain services. And that's okay. A lot of them were going DIY routes. That was cool. I was also learning how to reach the higher companies. So I know that some companies do hire consultants and other professionals to do certain things on a corporate level, whether that's nonprofit or a for-profit companies. So learning how to do that as well. A lot of those same companies were laying off their own employees. So we're just finding a lot. Right? We going through a minute. And so with that comes you start to question yourself, or I started to question myself, my value as a creator. So I was like, okay, that's why every Sunday, right, I had to kind of dig in and sort of focus on the thing that I love to do, because it was helping to balance out all the other stuff, right? All the other responsibilities, all of the things that I was feeling like maybe I'm failing in. And then I started to realize that it wasn't just me, right? It's not just me. There are a lot of people going through the same thing. And I'm fortunate enough to where it's not imperative for me to have that right now. It's not something that I just have to do, but it was something that I wanted to do and something that I think would have helped my household out. But I know that there are a lot of people who are not fortunate in that respect, right? So a lot of people are losing a lot of things. So one thing I will say is that I am grateful for that, not having sort of a fallback or someone a support system, I would say, having that support system. So it's been very interesting. But what it has forced me to do in going through all of that, right? And I will say the job thing didn't start 2025. It did start last year, but I wasn't really keeping up with it. I was like, okay, let me apply just here and there to see what I could do. And wasn't sort of keeping track of the applications, the dates, the pay, all of that until January of this year. So I started to keep track of all of that. I got too close to 100. Then it just, it was what it was. So it had gotten to a point where I was like, okay, it's not super imperative that I worry about this right now, right? Because it was dragging me down pretty tough. So I was like, rather than do that, let me again focus on something that I want to do. Let me explore these other things, because I do have a talent. I used to have a pretty decent client base, right? So maybe I can, instead of focusing on services, which I see people are sort of not able to afford right now, plus the AI stuff, plus you got to compete with that, right? And all of the things, a whole lot. There's so much, right? So I was like, okay, well, let me just focus on the stuff that I want to do, right? Because the thing that I've been told and programmed all of these years, you go to school, you get a job, that's how you succeed. Even though I've been able to sort of find my own level of success from 2012 to about 2023, and everything was great. I was learning as I was going. I was still able to sort of maintain and get out there, but I'm still steady watching things change. So I was like, well, rather than me worrying about that, right? Rather than worry about that, let me just focus on this. So we added the second live stream, which is on Wednesdays. And that allows me to work on other stuff, right? So I do typically work on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, but if I have something else that I would like to share, for instance, the book that I was writing for the second edition, I did think about showing the process of formatting that book, or maybe I'll kind of keep it to designing the cover. The only drawback I thought of sharing that particular process is that the manuscript would be sort of on screen while I did that. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't do that one, right? But Wednesdays kind of gives me an opportunity to explore different things while you guys are with me. It's just been the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So I've been able to do that. So when I come on here and tell y'all, please start to explore stuff that you like and sort of go after your dreams. I'm telling you that from experience, because I know how hard it can be to focus only on sort of the lack of things, how things are not necessarily clicking into place. But with that, when stuff like that happens, when things are not falling into place the way that they used to, or the way that they should, I feel like that is a challenge for us to find another avenue. Sometimes that rejection is just redirection, right? Sometimes we go through these hurdles and obstacles so that we can kind of push ourselves out of our old habits and our old sort of ways of being. It is not comfortable at all. It is not fun at all. It is really, really scary. It can be extremely stressful. It can be heartbreaking at times, right? And sometimes it is not easy to see that this is sort of pushing me beyond my normal, or what I thought was normal, or what I thought I should do, or what you thought you should do, or what's normal for you. But once you're sort of on the other side of that, you can kind of see, well, okay, maybe that just wasn't the path that I need to take. So a good portion of this year for me has been figuring out the path to take, right? But just sort of leaning into those passions, leaning into those passion projects especially, has sort of helped click things into place. Because in the past, whenever things would not work out, so I'll take you to 2019, for example. 2019 was the year that I started this project, but leading up to 2019, I was like, well, I want to do this thing, right? But maybe I should apply for a grant. Maybe I should, do this. Maybe I should sort of get some public works projects so that I can fund the project. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's a completely valid take, I feel, right? It's a completely valid thing to do. The problem was that I was sort of procrastinating, jumping out and doing something completely foreign and completely unheard of for me. This is, again, the largest project that I ever taken. So anytime I would kind of give myself the excuse or an out or something else to do aside from the thing that I actually wanted to do, stuff would just kind of fall apart, right? And so as soon as I began to work on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, it had the exact opposite effect. Stuff was falling into place. I was able to attract people like you guys who are interested in the arts, who are interested in tarot and all of the things that I do, and we can share and learn from each other. That kind of came with me leaning into that passion, or sort of jumping off that cliff and starting that thing that I wanted to do. Now, as I was going through the process over the 6 years, I would say, okay, cool. I got all of these projects coming in. I'm still able to put out my cards. I'm working on projects that I actually want to work on for other people. And then once those projects would complete, instead of me jumping back into focusing on the thing that I was passionate about, I would say, okay, let me see how I can get these other clients. And I can laugh at it now, but at the time I was like, okay, I gotta find the next client, right? I gotta find the next thing to do, because that's sort of funding the dream, sort of going backwards. And anytime I would experience that same sort of setback. So then I jump back into the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, and no lie, as soon as I jump back into the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, things would just fall into place, right? So last year I was like, okay, it was 2024. I was like, okay, look here, I gotta get back to doing my cards. I don't even know if I was framing it from the every time I do things kind of click into place. I don't know if I had gotten to that understanding yet, but I knew that it was something that I needed to again make time to do. So I was like, okay, let me do that. So since then, things have been working out a lot better. Now, of course, I went on back to let me find a job, let me do this, let me do that, so that I can sort of lighten the load of my household. Let me, so I can do other things, so I can fund the project. And then things were just kind of, it was like a cycle, right? And so once I was able to identify that cycle within myself and identify those sort of things that I was doing, I was like, okay, look here. Clearly that's not the way to go. So let's go back to leaning into creating and sort of, and this time really sharing the process. And I hope that you guys are enjoying me sharing this process. But I find that anytime I sort of lean into the things that I'm passionate about, no matter where that is, right? It could be photography. It could be me playing my banjos, right? And I got two of them. So playing my banjos or playing my different instruments or whatever the case is, anytime I find something that brings me actual like joy, right? Stuff starts to fall into place. So as soon as I started working on those sketches, where I'm actually studying sort of American traditional tattooing because I have an interest and want to learn how to tattoo, right? So I'm exploring that and sort of studying the breakdowns of that, which is a whole lot of fun, right? That's so much fun. Just to sort of study and break down the way that something is drawn. That's been a lot of fun. I'm like, oh man, I'm itching to right now. I'm itching to paint. So I'm like, oh no, this might feel good to get into some portraiture and all of that. Again, you know, the traditional mediums. And so just sort of exploring that and giving myself grace and just trying to find the fun in it, right? Because again, sometimes we can get hella stressed out just dealing with life and adulting and, you know, trying to do the right thing and making sure that we're making the right decision, whatever that decision is. And I always hear like spiritual and self-help teachers say that, you know, you have to believe that no matter what decision you take, it's going to be the right one. And so trusting in that, for me anyway, has been a challenge, right? Because I don't want to have to go through I'm tired of struggling, right? I'm tired of having hiccups and all of that kind of stuff. So you kind of stress to the point where it's like, okay, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or if I should explore this. And that's where the self-doubts and all of that come into play. But Sundays, right? No matter what's going on outside of that, on Sundays, I get to come and talk to you guys, and I swear it like breaks the fog, right? It kind of opens me up to be able to again feel good again, so I can tackle and be charged up and juiced up to move forward for the rest of the week. So I do challenge you guys again. Bravo to you, Draw Sketchbook, for making the time to develop your art skills. And if you guys are writing, making the time to write. If you guys are sewing, making the time to sew. If you're into exercise and making the time to exercise, you have to do that. you have to, right? Otherwise you drive yourself crazy and it's just not worth it. I think just life is too short, and I feel like we have so much pressure on us as adults, especially adults of a certain age. There's so much pressure, and I think I would far rather spend my time doing something I enjoy, if it's only for a few minutes a day, right, out of the week, or like an hour streaming, talking to you guys. I would much rather do that than to be worrying and like pulling my hair out and graying, right? Because I was doing my hair and I was like, ooh, them silver grays, silver hairs is popping. I have developed so many this year. And so just doing that. But yeah, it's been a very interesting year. But I will say that I do find comfort in knowing that I'm not the only one, right? So it's not just me. But it is interesting on the flip side of that to step outside of myself and my own sort of challenges and what I am experiencing within it, to kind of see how everybody's being affected. And I'm wondering, like, where is it all going, right? So I remember Great Depression a long time ago, and I remember studying in school, and they was like, they came up with like public arts programs for artists, and they developed TVA and sort of created these jobs. And I believe that that is sort of what is going to be needed, right? But because we are so deep in capitalism, right, where I'm just wondering how that's going to go. I really, really am. And I'm really just kind of curious. But in the meantime, in between time, right, we work on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. You guys work on your art. You work on your writing. You work on your drawing. You work on your fitness, or whatever it is that you're doing. Because whatever was happening and working for us prior to today is just no longer working, right? So it's really, really going to be interesting to see how things shift and change, even from a social media standpoint. So there was a good chunk of time where it was very easy to grow on social media, and we were able to see each other's work. Now sort of the algorithms are tailored towards advertisers. So even if I follow you guys, sometimes I don't even see your work. Sometimes I don't even see it, right? So if I don't see your stuff, I know that a lot of people are not seeing mine. And so that's having an effect on people. But I feel like where there is a will, there is a way. And so I feel like it's just a test of our own creativity to figure out what is going to be the next step to succeed, what that success looks like, and then just a testament to resilience, right? So don't drive yourself, if you in the similar boat to where I was, don't drive yourself crazy, child. It'll be all right. Right? It has absolutely no choice but to be okay. It's just trusting the process sometimes can be extremely scary and very, very difficult. When things are bills and stuff like that are piling up and all that. We're all going through it, right? All right. So what did I just do? I just added a few strokes into his pants. I do want to have his creases and things like that, but I want to kind of so this area right here, the shadow, is a little bit too wide for me in my personal opinion. So what I'm going to do now, I have the sketch turned off so I can kind of get a good read of what's going on. I'm going to take this medium brown color and I'm just going to break this up, but I want to break it up as if he has these sort of stress lines from jumping, right? So he is in action, so we want to make sure that we emphasize that in a way such as this, right? And we can go even darker. Right now I'm at a 7% dark. I'll go a little bit darker than that, and we will define where his leg is, so that something like this, so that the stress lines kind of stand out where they need to, but it doesn't look too sort of together, if that makes sense. So we're going to pull this in. So yeah, this year it's been interesting, right? I know that I have family who have survived worse, so I know that we'll be okay. But again, having you guys here to watch live, whether you're watching live or the replay, I appreciate you for being here, because you guys could be doing anything. You guys are choosing to hang out with me, and that from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate that so much. And I am so looking forward to seeing how you guys grow and evolve in your respective fields, whether that is art or literature or whatever it is that you're doing. I am so excited to see how you guys grow, and I'm honored that so many of you are sharing your process and your progress with me, and it helps to motivate me as well. So I really, really, really appreciate that from you. And I appreciate you for being here and listening to me talk 90 miles an hour. But I do enjoy it so much. I enjoy being able to share with you and let you know you're not alone in a lot of things. You're not alone in learning. You're not alone in whatever your personal struggles are. You're not alone in wanting to explore and be curious about the world and try new things. You're not alone in that. And I hope that you guys continue to share your progress and to continue to share with me your victories and all of that, because I love hearing about it. I don't know why my voice is cracking, but I do love hearing about it so much. It makes my day. It makes my heart smile every time I get an email or DM from you guys sharing with me your victories or asking questions or just shooting the breeze with me. I appreciate it so much. It does make my heart smile. It truly, truly does. All right, so we're just going to add some more texture in here. I'm still not a fan of this area, so we're going to lighten that up just a bit. Here we go, something like that. But we're just pushing and pulling. We're sort of keeping the idea that his stress point is at his knees, right? So everything from here is sort of pulling from his knees. So we want to make sure that as I add the wrinkles and crinkles and things like that, then I'm sort of aiming for his knee on both sides. I'm sort of aiming for that particular area. That's where his pants are being pulled to. And where it doesn't make sense, we'll just kind of take it out like so. And then we'll continue to add that. So in the bottom, it looks pretty good just as it is, right? I'm going to add just a little bit of a shadow here and maybe a little bit of highlight above it. Just so that we can, so that it again looks like his pants are raising as he is jumping, right? So that's sort of the illusion that we're creating. But it doesn't look bad so far. Again, anytime I'm doing something like this, I'm not necessarily reaching for perfection. I am super open to pushing and pulling. I don't necessarily have to erase. I'm just going to draw on top and give myself the grace to make mistakes and the room to make happy accidents. And we're just going to add a little bit more of a crease line here because this crease goes all the way up, and then it adds a little bit of shadow. So we'll just play it until it feels good, right? So yeah, so traditional medium, again, just to kind of backtrack, that's one of those things that I've been feeling kind of pulled to explore again, because it has been so long since I've done any of that acrylic paintings, ink paintings. Again, man, when I had found all those art supplies, I was like, I had no idea I still had so much. Was sure I had given away quite a bit of it, and I'm glad I did, because it was just collecting dust. And so I was happy to help my niece out and give her the ability to create and explore her creativity and all of that with all of the art stuff that I wasn't using it. So I was like, for sure, go ahead and take it and make what you want to make with it. So I was happy to see what I still had, though. That was really exciting to find some really good finds. Like I still got that water soluble oil paints. When you guys get a chance, I want you to go back and watch. I had bought so much stuff and I ain't used half of that stuff. I just again sort of leaned more into the digital. After a while, I did, of course, was doing the 6x8s and things like that, and I would have a commission every now and again to do a portrait. I believe I did a series of Civil War soldiers from Tennessee, I believe, after that point. So there were a few things that I was able to do and sort of complete with some of those supplies. But some of that stuff I had forgotten I had. And I was like, whoa. It felt like I had hit the jackpot. I had found so much stuff. So one of these days, maybe I'll bust out those water-soluble oils. I have no idea why I didn't explore it when I had it like fresh in the tube. But some of that I'd have to mix up and all that. But it's all fun. It's all good. All right, so I'm going to zoom out here. I deselected it, so that gives me a good opportunity to kind of see where things are. I can kind of zoom out. That doesn't look too bad. Let's see. I zoom out in the same way that if I were painting, I would kind of step back from the canvas, right? So what I am going to do, I don't necessarily like how harsh this particular line is. So we're going to dull that down some. Maybe add in some more highlight area, because remember, this area is in the sun. That looks a little bit better. I don't necessarily like this either. So we're going to take that out. And we're just kind of simplify it by zooming out and remembering too that this is going to be on a card. So sometimes I get caught up with these details. Hey, Jerry Box, he says, hey, Merry Christmas. Would you try to make my logo? It would be great. I'm not sure what that one says, but sure, Jerry, if you will, there is a link down in the description that has, I think it'll say work with me. If you'll click that and then fill out all the information there, I will get back in touch with you and we can do that. I would love to. So yep, that'll be the perfect place to go. But yeah, so we're sort of making our way through this particular illustration. And that looks good. So I think from here, I don't have his shirt done yet, but I do know that he's wearing a bow tie. So we'll get into that here in a bit. So I have his shirt on a separate layer. Of course, you know, I am queen of the layers, right? And this is helpful because a lot of times we may... it says, if I am 15, it's okay. I'm not sure what that means, Jerry, but if you would just fill out that form for me, I can get in touch with you. If that's your age, we can discuss it a little bit later. That may be a little bit young, but just contact me and then we'll go from there. All right. Alrighty. So let's see here. Shirt. So I have his shirt sort of in the same color as our bride's dress, right? So we want to remember that we have all of our information here. We want to darken this up because it's going to be up under a shadow. Oh, looks like we're going to auto save. So if it does auto save, I'm going to show you guys again. No, it didn't. Okay, good. I was going to say if it does auto save, I'll show you what this project looks like. I did update the little slideshow. I didn't necessarily update it to the point where I have all of the cards, but I do have some additional cards at the end. So that does kind of give us an idea of what some of the newer cards looks like. I have some of these cards that I've done, I have not seen in a very, very long time. So seeing them is really nice. It's like, oh wow, sometimes I could create stuff and I'd be forgot that I created. I came across a commission that I had done for one of my husband's good friends. He's hired me for quite a lot of artwork, and so I had did a commission for someone that he knew, a portrait of someone he knew, and I had forgot all about it. And I was like, man, it's man, that's good. I was like, look at that. I don't even remember. I remember it after I saw it, but I was like, I don't even hadn't remembered doing this one. So sometimes I come across art that I have not seen in a very, very long time. And so that was kind of the nostalgia that I was having with watching my old art videos. It was like, oh man, I forgot all about this one. And the thing of those are that I used to take a really, really lot of time and a lot of care in picking music for them, right? So I would always try to pick something that I felt invoked whatever feeling I was going for. On the odd occasion, I would just pick something at random, but for the most part, I would spend a lot of time sort of picking the music to fit the vibe of the artwork, to make, whoever's watching it feel a little something and whatnot. And so as I was watching them, I could see the thumbnail and I could instantly remember like the song that I had chosen for that particular illustration. And so that was a whole lot of fun to go back and watch. But man, it got me itching for some traditional artwork in a big major way. So I think I'll share that with you guys. I have not done it in so long. Set up the camera for that, but just sort of sitting at my table and like having all of my paints and inks and things like that out, I think will feel real nice. For just to change the pace up a little bit and to get back to my roots, I should say. So there's a common misconception that digital artists cannot draw. For me, I started in traditional work, right? Of course, at the time that I started drawing, I was like three. Right. And so there was no digital art. We would draw with a mouse. You could use like MS Paint, or like I did animations in Adobe Flash so many years ago. That was a long time ago. So but drawing traditionally is sort of where my foundation was. I actually taught myself how to do digital artwork, right? So when I was in college, made a big deal, or a big sort of I made a conscious effort, I should say. I made a conscious effort to make sure I took like painting classes and things like that, because that's what I enjoyed. So I wanted to make sure that I leaned into being able to make time and space for the things that I enjoy, because I was going to have to pay for it anyway. Right? So I would always do that. And so when I was beginning freelancing, again, my projects would come in two sort of varieties. I would either have logos, such as what Jerry is asking for. So I would have logos, and which later became branding. I would have logos and branding, or I would do like portraits. So that was sort of the two realms I would always sort of work within. As a freelancer, it was more often than not, it was logos. And then of course, later on down the line, I would begin to sort of attract and take on different kinds of projects, such as the book covers, such as children's book illustrations and comic book covers, which I have done so many of them I had forgotten I had done. Right? So I was going back memory lane looking at all of that old artwork, but it sort of evolved, right? And so from there, I kind of decided, from the variety of projects that I'd taken, the kinds of things that I enjoyed working on. So the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, for example, is kind of a mesh between all of the things that I enjoy doing, right? So I get a chance to illustrate people and characters, but I also get a chance to do the graphic design, but not necessarily the aspects of it I don't like, right? So I get a chance to kind of do what I do enjoy with graphic design. I get a chance to design packaging for it. I get a chance to do the book covers and the layouts and all of that, all wrapped up in one project. So with this project, it is absolutely the largest that I have undertaken by myself, right? So anytime there's a large project, such as like a book cover, for instance, I did one, I think it was nonfiction book, and I think it was Divine Feminine Essence was the title. on that, I only did the cover, right? I did the cover illustration and graphic design. Someone else did the layouts and so on and so forth. When I offer services now for authors, I will offer the whole thing, but I do understand that people hire other professionals for other things. So when you're doing the book, you have to take all of that into consideration. So that is something that I offer on my website. So the tarot cards give me an opportunity to do all of those things, which I'm very fortunate for. Now we are about 42 cards in at this point. This is the 43rd card in this collection. Most of the cards that I've created, I either sell as a poster print. The posters usually have like the name. So if it's the lovers, it'll say the lovers and the number of the lovers. For the canvas prints, however, you're just getting the illustration. So you get, if you like the way that the world looks, for example, because I've sold a couple of those, you'll only get the figure from the world. So it'll be a full-on canvas print. And if you want it framed, we have those framed as well. So I do sell a good chunk of this. Just because it is taking so long, right? I want people to be able to enjoy aspects of the project now, while they can. I also decided to put a few of the cards on the covers of journals, which has been really, really nice. Those journals I love because they're really small, really thin. The ones that I have for sale now are great with ballpoint pens, but whenever we get to the point where I am doing a second run of those, I'll have it so that you can use any particular writing utensils, pencil, pen, marker that you would like and have a great result with it. So I've been enjoying this project. Again, it's taught me a lot. It's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. It's definitely challenged me to think about things artistically, such as composition, such as visual storytelling, and not necessarily only focusing on the portraits, which is my favorite, of course. Not just focusing on the portraits, but actually telling stories within the illustrations that I create. So I'm learning a lot, right? It's been 6 years. I'm hoping it won't be 6 more, but however long it takes, right? I keep thinking about a thread that I saw recently about Guillermo del Toro, and I don't know why this was so inspiring to me, but it stuck with me. And I think it's been a couple weeks since I saw it, but they said that he had wanted to make Frankenstein at the age of 11, and he's currently 61, and he just made it. So I say all that to say, all things in divine timing. So whenever this is done, man, let me tell you about the celebration we're going to have, right? It is going to be so nice and such a good time. So it looks like my camera has gone out. So what I'll do here, if it'll allow me to, is we'll turn it off for now. And while I work on that, I'm going to get that to come back up. There we go. Uh-oh. And see, this is what I was experiencing last week. So because it's such a huge file, and again, the autosave cycle takes such a long time and such a large amount of RAM, it does sort of cause issues. It can cause issues. So let's see. I'm going to try to turn that off so you guys can see my avatar. There we go. There we go. And then we'll try turning the camera off and back on, and we'll get back to it. So next year, we're coming into a new year. Is there something that you guys have been wanting to work on and maybe have not had the courage to do it? Do you guys have a set of goals already for the coming year? I actually didn't know. I guess because, again, I had spent a good chunk of the year doing jobs and trying to get that situated and whatnot, that I actually had forgotten about the goals that I had set for this year. And so a couple of them I was able to complete. A couple of them I actually just kind of forgot about. But do you guys have any goals that you would like to start to work on for the next year? I know that a lot of people like to wait for the new year to start new things. I am of the mind of starting it when you have the inclination to do so. Whenever you have an idea, even if it's just writing it down, sometimes the most important thing is just to take the first step of that. I find that when I don't sort of act on an idea when I have it, I'll tend to lose it or forget about it. So if anything, I'll write it down. So for instance, I don't know if you guys remember, but I told the story not long ago about driving down the street, a street I drive by a lot, right? And I pass this specific house all the time. But for whatever reason, I passed this house one day and I looked at it and I was like, that would be a great backdrop for a horror story, right? And so as I was driving, the idea came to mind, and And I was like, okay, let me pull out my phone. Think I pulled out my phone, did a whole voice recording of the synopsis, and I created this whole story to, of course, elaborate on and create a novel for a little bit later. But if I had not done that, once I got home and get sidetracked and start doing other things, I'll forget, right? And next thing you know, I'll see someone with a similar story or like a similar idea. So sometimes when we have these ideas that pop up, sometimes when we have things that we want to do and try, a lot of times it's best to just start when it comes to your mind, right? So that you don't lose the inspiration for that particular idea. So that was one such case. It is still auto-saving, but I'll let you guys see. I'll turn this off for just a bit. So so that is one of the things that, of course, one of the ideas. I have so many things that I want to do before my time is up here on this earth. And I reckon I'll get around to a lot of those things, right? So I had to kind of, I don't know, one day I was just kind of driving clears my mind. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times driving clears my mind. But I actually sort of had to do a retrospective on all of the things that I've experienced in this life in my 39 years, all of the things that I have done, all of the chances I've taken, all of the victories. I don't think I had given myself enough credit for the victories, right? For the things that have gone incredibly well in my life, all of the new experiences, all of the chances that I have taken, especially when I was younger, in order to sort of, try new things and do new things and explore the world and find the best fit and the best path for myself. I don't think I had given myself enough credit, right? Sometimes we have to do that. But what I will say is that anytime I've had an idea, for the most part, now sometimes again, I'll have ideas and I won't act on them and I'll forget about them, or they'll like be in the back of my mind and I'll procrastinate and say, well, I'll get to them and never do. And then I'll see someone with the exact same idea. That happens quite frequently, right? So sometimes we have to sort of make that step ourselves and sort of take a chance, even if it's just writing it down, right? Even if it's just pulling out your voice recorder on your phone and recording the idea down and then coming back to it later. So you have to kind of act on that. But if you guys have goals for next year, I would love to hear about them. I don't know that I have a set yet for the next year. There's maybe one or two that I know for sure is something I would like to do and explore before next year comes. But I don't know that I have like a list of goals just yet. There are some projects that I would like to go ahead and finish, right? Of course, there are all kinds of side missions and things like that I would like to do. Finish publishing the second edition of that first book is one of those things. And that book is called What the Bleeper Shadows. I have it right now, even the ebook marked as out of stock. I sold out of the paperback version of it, but the ebook I do have marked as out of stock. And so you cannot get it just yet because I would like for your purchase to be the best version of it or the newest version of it, so that you guys can have the guided journal portion, which I'm really excited about. And for that, I only have a couple things to do and I can just reformat it and get it ready to go. So I'm excited to have that done. Let's see. There we go. Is camera working? Let's see here. So yeah, if you have something that you would like to explore, if you have something that you would like for me to show you or explore on this particular channel, be sure to let me know as well. I did have a poll that I had out a couple months ago on the community tab of this channel. If you are interested in it, there we go. If you're interested in it, it is still up. So if you'd like to cast your vote on what you would like to see on this channel, that is available. There we go. All right. So, yeah, I would love to know what it is that you guys have in mind and have set up for yourself for next year or for now, right? If you just have something that you are starting to explore now, I would love to hear about it and love to sort of help you along, be your accountability partner if I can be. And maybe you guys could be my accountability partner. But yeah, I would love to have that the second edition of that book put out next year. I intended to have it out this year, but it just didn't work out that way. I looked at it earlier today. I only have a couple of things like I need to do, and then we need to go into edit, and then I'll be able to format it. But I actually started reformatting it, and then I was like, you know what, maybe I should approach this slightly differently. And so I have been working off and on on that. But as a creative, I will say that is one of the things that I have a tendency towards, is having a gajillion things that I would like to do creatively. So sometimes I don't always have the time to, but I do sort of make note of it, so I can come back to it at a different date. But this year I have not done any conventions, so maybe next year. I have not decided yet, but next year, hopefully, maybe we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll kind of get back out there and do some more. There were a couple that I had planned to do this year. I just didn't for whatever reason, one reason or another. Things just didn't work out for that. But if you're an artist, have you considered going into some conventions? Is that something you guys are looking into? Again, I have all kinds of convention stories in that realm. Again, there's noticing trends and things like that. For me, it's sort of hit and miss. It's not something that I would do sort of looking to be rich or anything like that. But it is a great way to get out in front of people in your particular area, because the more that people see you as an artist, the more that they'll be willing to purchase from you and support you in all that you do. So if you guys are into that kind of thing, or looking for a way or a slightly different way to market your business, to market your artwork, to share, to meet people, all of that, I would highly recommend doing conventions where you can showcase what it is that you do. And one of the keys, and I don't ever hear anyone talking about this, but one of the things that I have found to be the most helpful is when I do an event that's not necessarily an art specific event. I'll give you a great example. Many years ago, I think the lecturer Layla Africa came here to Memphis. And it's been a couple of times. Layla Africa came, Ashra Kwesi came, and I want to say Tariq Nasheed, maybe. I don't know if I vended at his event, but for Layla Africa and Ashra Kwesi, I was able to set up at those events and sell my art, and I was the only artist there, and I had art that fit that specific type of event, that type of crowd. And so I did extremely well doing those. I was able to network and get commissions from those. So that was a whole lot of fun. Draw Sketchbook says, I'm interested in going to a handful of conventions next year. I'll check out the Artist Atlas. Yes, do that. That is so much fun. Conventions, man, especially if you find one that's like super laid back. There's one here in Memphis that I'll never do again. It just so happens to be the oldest one in the city. I'll never do that one again. But there are a couple here that I absolutely adore. I think the crowds are really great. The cosplayers are really great. It's very laid back, very millennial friendly, I would say. Whereas the one that I would not do again is very stuffy. I remember they had two aspects of it, and which is wild to me because the demographic of Memphis is just what I experienced there. Just didn't make no sense whatsoever. But there are two aspects of this particular convention. There is the comic book convention part of it, and then they have an art show where you can like hang your originals and things like that, frame them, whatever, and people can bid on your art or purchase like the originals. And so I remember having some artwork in the art show. And so the convention hadn't started. I had already been in the room. I was going to hang up. I think I hung up my artwork the day before. So I was coming back to check on it. And before I could get in the door, like the lady was harassing me about coming in. You got to have, didn't ask me. She did not ask me who I was. She didn't ask me if I needed help or nothing. It was automatically accusing me of being in the wrong place, right? And then the last time I did that convention, I don't recall if that was the last time or the time before the last. I ended up getting really sick, so I was like, that's my sign. I'll never do this one again. But otherwise, I've had some really, really awesome experiences at conventions, and I think they're really, really great. And if you can go to one and just kind of hang out and just sort of see the vibe of different ones and kind of talk to some of the vendors and see how they're enjoying it, I think that's really, really great. If you've never, for you guys who've never gone to a convention and maybe you might be scared or shy to talk to an artist, don't be. Right? A lot of us are like itching to talk to someone. I've had so many interesting conversations with people, and I guess because I've done them for so long, I don't necessarily expect everyone that stops to purchase, right? Sometimes they're just stopping to shoot the breeze. And so they're really, really great, especially if you can find, again, like a really laid back one that you can try. I always recommend doing them locally. So if you're setting up for your first show, start locally, right? Build up your sort of audience, kind of see what works and what doesn't work within your locale, and then branch out. So I think the furthest I've gone was still in my home state, but Tennessee is a big old state. So I went to Knoxville, which is about 6 hours from Memphis. We vended there. That one was okay. I had heard really great because I was recommended by another artist. I think it was Fanboy Expo or something like that in Knoxville. That was sort of the start of, in my opinion, of the decline. It started sort of seeing the fluctuation in visitors to vendors, if you will. But it was still a fun time. Like, it was still so much fun. We met Timok from Last Dragon there. I think I saw Ron Perlman there, a few others when Cobra Kai was out. I forget the name. Miguel, he was there. He was much younger. It was so much fun. It was just a fun time, right? I think aside from that, out of state, I've gone to Arkansas, which was a whole lot of fun. And they don't do that one specifically anymore, but I do have favorites and ones that I thoroughly enjoy. And so I encourage you guys to go out and explore different events, especially comic conventions, because they again are so much fun to do, just to vend that. You know what I mean? But when you go to those, I think some people I've noticed go in with the intention of making like buku money. Sometimes it works out like that, sometimes it doesn't. It's just a matter of enjoying sort of the process of being there and networking, or sort of getting to know your local audience and then branching out. I would love to do at some point Dragon Con, which is down in Atlanta. I would love to do that one. And of course, I really, really want to do the big one, which is San Diego Comic Con at some point. But we'll see. I don't know yet this year if I'm going to be doing any conventions. This year I did not. I think I signed up for 2. They weren't comic book conventions though. I think they were one of them was a spiritual convention in Missouri. And the reason I thought that would be a good idea is, of course, because I'm doing the tarot arts. I just thought it would be a great place to set up. I don't recall what happened, but I ended up having to cancel that one. And I think I signed up for another event here locally in Memphis, and I think I just let them know was not able to do that, but let both of them know well enough ahead of time so that they can assign my spot to whomever else. But I do think that for people, getting out there in person is going to be huge, right? I think that's going to be a really, really great thing. Great for exposure, great for sort of, again, connecting face to face with people, because social media has been so wonky lately, right? So any opportunity you guys get to sort of get out amongst the folks, amongst the people, I would highly recommend doing that. Even if you're just kind of checking it out to see what the vibe is, to see how people are faring at the different events, that's okay as well. But yeah, man, if you could I love a good comic book convention. I think one of my husband's friends is the one that kind of got me into it, because again, I was just been trying to figure out my place and my footing for many years, right? So when that first started to happen, one of my husband's friends was like, "You should get into comics," and I was like, "I don't know." I'm thinking I had to be somebody special and all of this to do that. And so I that was around 2014. I had did my first convention, and it's been up since then. Really love the atmosphere, really love the people, and I have not had any except that one. And like I said, I'll never do that one again. they couldn't pay me to go to that one. It's so stuffy. It's such a weird vibe, right? Because again, they're the oldest convention in the city, and it's just it's not something that I enjoy being around or a part of. But again, there are some that have taken place. For instance, my favorite here in the city is the Memphis Comic Expo. Behind that would be MCFC, I think, Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention. Always a fun time. The friend of the guy that runs it had a shop downtown some years ago where he sold comic art, and so I had an opportunity to have my art in sort of a store type of setting, and so it was on consignment. So anytime you would sell something at the end of the week or however it worked, you would have a check ready. So that was nice, right? So be able to have that experience and have the opportunity to do that. He had to actually close down and sublet to another business, and they ended up moving. It was a whole thing. But you'll meet so many interesting people. You'll meet so many people who are excited to meet you, right? Which is always fun and so surreal, I feel. But yeah, if you guys have an opportunity to go and participate in some comic book conventions, I would highly, highly recommend doing so. So I think we've made some pretty decent progress today. I'm going to deselect this so we can kind of have an idea of what we're looking like. He's coming along. I like his pants. I don't know if when I come back to look at this on Wednesday, I'll like it then. We'll see. But so far, it looks fine. Right. So far it looks fine. Looks like he's in motion. I am going to need to finish his feet and his shoes at a certain point, and then I'm going to need to add a shadow behind them to let us know that they are actually indeed jumping over this broom. And then from there, Wednesday will definitely be back on this canopy, which is something that I'll be hopefully making some big old strides on, so that we could go ahead and wrap that up. Because outside of that, the only things we have left to do on this particular illustration is the broom itself, the bride's dress, her shoes, and then of course the shadows. And then if I add the fairy lights in the background and on the broom to let us know that those are the 4 wands in this picture, I think we'll be good to go. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. I thank you guys all for joining me, whether you're watching this live or the replay. Thank you so much for coming by, and thank you so much, you guys, for being in the chat. I love the questions. I love the participation. I love knowing that you're there. So if I missed you, please let me know, and be sure to say hey, even if it's leaving it in the comments. I love to know that you guys had an opportunity to watch the live stream, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. So for next week, I think it'll be the 14th or so, we'll be back on Sunday for Paint With Me Live. But if you like a little more chill live stream where we just work and listen to music and study and do all of the things, I'm always in the chat for sure on that one. We'll be here Wednesdays at 12:45 p.m. Central Standard Time for Bring Your Own Project Live. And I would love again to know there where you guys what you guys are working on, where you're at, how life is going for you, and all of the things. TN Lady says good night. Thank you so much, TN Lady. So before we go, be sure to hit the like button. That helps me out a whole lot, because I do have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers. If there's a video you want to see, I got a running list. So make sure you let me know so that I can write that down in my running list of videos to go ahead and produce and to create, so that you guys can get what you're looking for out of this channel. Until next time, I hope you guys have a happy, creative, and prosperous week. And I would love to hear about your wins coming up Wednesday. So please join me Wednesday at 12:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. So until then, peace.